2 News begins right now with breaking
Neon
news.
Welcome to the Shrines of the Black Madonna, where we believe in you being your best self. Come with an open mind and an open heart. We invite you to partake in our worship experience. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Giving is an opportunity for us to build community, ministry, health, and best self. Tap into your greatness that God has already placed inside of you and share it with the world. We would love to see you more often. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I believe that human society stands under the judgment of one God, revealed to all and known by many names.
God's creative power is visible in the mysteries of the universe.
And the revolutionary Holy Spirit,
which will not long permit men to endure injustice, nor to wear the shackles of bondage, in the rage of the powerless, when they struggle to be free.
And in the violence and conflict, which even now threaten to level the hills and the mountains.
I believe
that Jesus, the Black Messiah,
was a revolutionary leader
sent by God to rebuild the Black nation Israel,
to liberate African people from powerlessness and from the oppression,
brutality, and exploitation of the white Gentile world.
I believe
that the revolutionary spirit of God embodied in the Black Messiah
is born anew in each generation,
and that Black Christian nationalists constitute the living remnant of God's chosen people
in this day, and are charged by God with responsibility for the liberation of African people.
I believe
that both my survival and my salvation depend upon my willingness to reject individualism.
And so I commit my life
to the liberation struggle of African people
and accept the values, ethics, morals, and program of the Black nation, defined by that struggle and taught by the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, felt with a steady beat, and let our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Get connected and stay connected online with the Shrine of the Black Madonna Virtual Village. Worship, join, learn, give, connect with us, all in one place in just 3 easy steps. 1. Go to our landing page via our Linktree URL or QR code. 2. Browse our selections and decide what you want to do and where you want to go. 3. Click on your choice and we'll take you right there. Yes, in just 3 easy steps, you can worship, join, learn, give, all in one place. So, get connected and stay connected with us online at the Shrine of the Black Madonna Virtual Village.
I want to talk this morning about a subject that my wife told me, "You sure you want to say that?" And I said, well, it depends on how you're thinking about the word. And I explained that the word really has a meaning in history that is not derogatory, it's not a racial slur, it's a description of a kind of person. And so the only way that I can make what I'm saying clear is to use the term that describes the people that I'm trying to talk about. So this morning I want to talk about the Peckerwood Messiah. Our scriptures from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9. What has been done will be done again. What has been done will be done again. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. You know, that if you read history, because if you really understand things, history got a whole lot of good ideas in it. And there's a whole lot of good stuff that people just don't pick up because they don't read history. So they have these flash in the pan ideas like it's something real new and breakthrough. And if you just go back and look a little while with some intensity, you'll find that people before you had ideas like that or better ideas about the same thing. But you got to go through the trouble of looking backwards because there's nothing new under the sun. After 2 weeks of the Trump administration, many people still can't believe that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. It certainly has been a tumultuous 2 weeks. His inaugural address announced a new vision and a new direction for America. It was the shortest, darkest, and scariest inaugural address in history. So much so that 5 million people around the world turned out the day after the inauguration to express an opposing view of America. And a shout out to Janae Ingram, the sister that organized the march. She's a beautiful young black woman, and she's the one that has now put together the biggest march that's ever descended upon the country. There is a real palpable fear and anxiety that haunts many people in America. It's real. It's a fear. It's an anxiety, and it haunts people. especially those in marginalized minorities, Muslims, Mexicans, black people, the LGBT community, those on the outsides, on the margins. And on the other hand, there's some people who act as if Trump is no big deal. Just business as usual. And they've decided to adopt a wait and see attitude, give a man a chance kind of thing. Even though their sixth sense tells them that something is seriously wrong. They forget that many Jews felt the same way. They helped elect Hitler, then they supported him, up until the time it was too late. Most people do not understand the significance of the Trump presidency, and they do not really recognize the profound difference and danger that it represents. It's as if most people's level of discord is personal. They don't like it. They don't like it as a person. Well, a whole lot of presidents you may not necessarily like as a person, but their policies weren't such that they threaten your survival. And the problem with people really understanding what's going on is caused by the fact that the media refuses to identify the Trump presidency for what it is. Only a few reporters feel comfortable enough to call the Trump administration what it is. All of the talk on the cable news and network news speak of the Trump administration in terms of the familiar liberal, conservative, left-right, Republican, Democrat battle. But this characterization masks the true nature of what we're living through. Frank Brunel of the New York Times said, "This is not a Republican administration. It is not a Democratic administration. It is an ethnic nationalist administration." Now that's as close to calling it a white nationalist administration as they feel comfortable expressing. Many people do not really understand what Donald Trump is all about. They talk as if he's crazy, or if he's a joke. And he's not crazy, and he is not a joke. He has a definite plan. He is in arguments with every leader in the world like a crazy man. But he ain't crazy. He's arguing with them on purpose. He is a disruptor. His job is disrupting. He disrupts things so that they can be redefined. So if you call, "Oh, congratulations on your win," and then he goes to cussing you out, you're like, "Well, wait a minute. I thought we were friends." He's disrupting the relationship so it can be redefined. And that's what's done. He does everywhere with everything. Everybody is all up in arms every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. What he done said crazy now? What had he done crazy now? He's doing it on purpose. He is disrupting traditional values, expectations. He's disrupting what people expect. I'm not going to get in this cage and play this game the way you want me to play it. And so his method of creating some space is disruption. Anybody that ever dealt with him in business will tell you the same thing. That's the way he does business. 2 teams will sit there and work out an elaborate deal, lawyers on both sides, developers on both sides. Then he'll come in the final hour and say, "What is this? This is ridiculous. I'm through with all of this. The deal is off." Now he knows he got most of what he wants. But when he kills it, they got to sit back down and inch it over a little bit more in his favor. He's a disruptor. And so what he's doing is disrupting. He's trying to look crazy. He's trying to be unpredictable so that the relationships can be redefined. So this is a tumultuous time. It's also a dangerous time. And we don't quite know what we're dealing with. But an almost unnoticed act may tell us more about Trump's plan and what we are up against than anything the media cares to talk about. The first day that Donald Trump was in the Oval Office, he instructed the White House staff to place a portrait of Andrew Jackson the 7th President of the United States on the wall behind his desk. If you look at the Oval Office, you'll see to Donald Trump's left is a big picture of Andrew Jackson. He idolizes Andrew Jackson as his role model. His inaugural address was described as very Jacksonian. His style and his volatile temperament is very much similar to Andrew Jackson's. Both Donald Trump and his puppet master, Steve Bannon, share a profound admiration for Andrew Jackson. In short, Donald Trump seeks to be the modern day Andrew Jackson. And if we can understand Andrew Jackson and his role in the shaping of America, we'll understand Trump and his program for America. This is Black History Month, and I'm going to give you a little American history. Up until 1824, all the presidents and leading political figures in the country had been Eastern elites, all along the coast, the first 13 original colonies. They were highly educated, highly connected, intermarried, highly sophisticated establishment figures. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams were all establishment blue bloods with an aristocratic pedigree that went all the way back to England. Andrew Jackson came along, and he was very, very, very different. Andrew Jackson was from the uncultivated Tennessee frontier. He was what they called a cracker or a squatter. He was part of the landless white peasants that lived in mud huts or crude log cabins and slept with the animals inside. The pig and the goat would be inside with the kids and the children, with the children and the wife. And they all slept in one bed, and the pig slept in a pan they washed in. Andrew Jackson was a land speculator. That meant that he bought land so that it could be resold at a higher price. He was a businessman. He was a slave trader. He had almost 200 slaves of his own. And he was a genocidal crusader against the Native Americans. He owned multiple slave labor camps, or what we call plantations, in various parts of the South. He was also the first frontiersman to become president. He built a reputation as a general by freeing up land so that poor, landless white squatters could occupy it and become voters, because you couldn't vote at that time unless you owned land. And so what he did was he went in and freed up land so that they could go squat on the land and eventually come to own it and become voters, real citizens. Jackson's ragtag militia army ran the 5 Indian nations out of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. We think of Indians being out west. No, Indians were everywhere. And the only way Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi got to be Indian free is that they got run out of there. Andrew Jackson initiated the famous Trail of Tears. You heard about the Trail of Tears? Where the Indians were marched hundreds of miles from the south out west to almost valueless land in the Oklahoma territory. Thousands of bodies littered the trail as they walked from Alabama and Mississippi to Oklahoma. This diabolical act opened up more than 25 million acres for white resettlement. And after the large plantation owners took the best land for the expansion of slavery westward, landless white peasants got to choose land that they wanted for themselves. Andrew Jackson became a hero because he was the architect of ethnic cleansing American style. He became a hero to the common man because he made it possible for them to own land, and to vote. He became a national phenomenon, a national hero. But he wasn't highly educated, he wasn't sophisticated, and he wasn't a connected figure. He was what they called a Peckerwood. He was an ignorant, crude, unsophisticated, super racist, like his friend Davy Crockett. The Eastern political establishment didn't think much about Andrew Jackson and his political potential until it was too late. They didn't take him seriously when he decided that he was going to run for office, and then when he decided he was going to run for president. He was a congressman first. They didn't take him seriously because they said, who is this bumpkin, this Jed Clampett, that wants to be a politician? Now, if all them crude crackers out there are going to vote for him, that's all right. But he'll never be anything in Washington because he's too crude and unsophisticated. Well, they didn't understand it, but all those people that Andrew Jackson helped to own land got to work on his behalf. And he snuck up on them. Jackson was celebrated as a man of the people, the common man's champion. He didn't speak in highfalutin terms like the polished politicians. He was plain talking. He said what he meant and meant what he said. He was willing to punch you in the face if you disagreed with him or if you embarrassed him. He shot 3 politicians and stabbed another one in the back. The Peckerwoods loved him. He was their kind of man. He called the free black people in the North a useless population. He said, if you wasn't in slavery, you didn't have any value. And why would you have these black people in the North that were free running around creating trouble? He advocated deporting all free black people to Africa or South America. His overt racism helped proliferate racist ideas by sensationalizing and connecting crime and poverty with blackness. Ibram X. Kendi says, free blacks had been forced into the shacks, cellars, and alleys of Nigger Hill in Boston, Little Africa in Cincinnati, or 5 Points in New York. The worst hell of America, wrote a visitor. Black behavior, not the wrenching housing and economic discrimination, was blamed for these impoverished enclaves. In other words, it wasn't that conditions were being forced on us that created this situation. It was the fact that black behavior, irresponsibility, laziness was responsible for this situation of abject poverty. The Peckerwood Nation got behind Andrew Jackson, supporting his efforts to revolt against the aristocratic establishment and to do something you've heard before, to drain the swamp. To drain the swamp in Washington so that the government would be representative of all white men, not just those aristocratic blue bloods that went back, their pedigree went back to England. In the People's History of the United States, Howard Zinn says, Jackson cleared land for white occupancy between the Appalachians and the Mississippi, cleared it for cotton in the South and grain in the North, for expansion, immigration, canals, railroads, new cities, and the building of a huge continental empire clear across to the Pacific Ocean. The cost in human life cannot be accurately measured, in suffering not even roughly measured. The opening up of the territory so the railroads would go across the country, that was Andrew Jackson. The building of roads and canals. When you left the 13 original colonies, it was nothing. Nothing out there. He built roads, canals, bridges, tunnels. He built a whole infrastructure of a country that allowed a sea of white occupants to begin to move westward. This was the great dream of Andrew Jackson. They had to move the Indians out of the way to carry out their dream. It was Andrew Jackson who led the charge in this respect. Although Andrew Jackson opened American politics to the common man, the true beneficiaries of the Jackson presidency was not the Peckerwood. The true beneficiaries were the ultra-rich, big business, the corporations, the large landowners. Jackson expanded the country with large land acquisitions and infrastructure projects. He opened America up for raw capitalism. He used populism of the white masses to transfer public wealth in the private hands of his family, friends, and supporters. They got fabulously richer. The Peckerwood class got some land and the vote. Native Americans and African Americans got the shaft. Now, what are you talking about, preacher? Where are you going with this? Well, I'm going to tell you. Donald Trump seeks to do the same thing. He seeks to ride the popular support of common people to transfer public wealth into the hands of the ultra-wealthy. And in return, he plans to preserve white supremacy and white privilege as an American birthright. They get something, we get something. To help carry out Andrew Jackson's plan today, he has Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, who is really running the country, he's the chief strategist. In other words, he creates the long-term vision and strategy for where things are headed. Steve Bannon is a white nationalist, a neo-Confederate, and an evil genius. He's a media expert who has run newspapers, magazines for years. He's been an internet bomb thrower for years, a provocateur, creating trouble. He's been internet bomb thrower through his alt-right Breitbart news service. And he said crazy things, just like, but they're designed, the things he says are designed to disrupt. Crazy things that draw attention. He knows what he's doing. He's also been involved in the movie industry. He was one of the owners of Seinfeld, where he made his principal money. He is a master propagandist and a great manipulator. And Bannon sees everything as war. Everything is war. If you cross him, he's going to destroy you because everything is war. He reminded his staff at Breitbart News all the time, we are at war. And that's why we have to create these stories and issue these provocative news reports, headlines, because they stimulate people. They make some people run, they make some people come to you. He tells Donald Trump that we are already at war with Islam and already at war with China. He got Trump elected by stoking the fears of white Americans. Today, he's in charge of the administration's total strategy. He belongs to a fraternity of white nationalists known as the Fight Club. And just like in the movie, the Fight Club was designed to bring down the establishment. His little group of white nationalists, they consider themselves the Fight Club. They're bringing down the system as it is. They also call themselves red pillars. You know, in the Matrix, when you didn't want to go back to sleep, when you found out the truth, you had a choice between the red pill and the blue pill. The red pillars took the red pill so they would stay awake and they could fight the system. Well, his group calls themselves red pillars. They don't want to do things as usual. They've chosen to stay awake and fight rather than go back to sleep. His real inner circle, they call themselves honey badgers. Now, honey badgers, if you know anything about a honey badger is the most fearless, fiercest animal on the earth. He ain't scared of nothing, and he never stops eating and never stops killing. Eating and killing, and they never stop. A honey badger will fight a lion. Matter of fact, I Googled honey badger and saw a honey badger fighting 6 lions. Fought the whole family. A honey badger will climb into a beehive and get stung 1,000 times in order to get the honey out. He don't care about getting stung. He'll keep on going. A honey badger will fight a cobra and get stung 7, 8, 10 times, but he won't stop coming. And then when he kills the cobra, he'll eat the cobra, venom and all. And then you say, well, now he done killed himself. And he pass out, an hour later, he hunting and killing again. Steve Bannon had the idea that a honey badger is what they are because they're not going to stop. They can't be deterred. They will not give up. They're going to keep on fighting no matter what. And he got some of these honey badgers in the White House around him and in other parts of the government where they have a common commitment that they will never stop. They will never stop. They'll never get up, and they're not afraid of anything. They're not disturbed by protests. They high-fiving when there's a big hope and when there's a big protest. Because they believe if you're disrupting the establishment, people are not going to like it. So a protest is a sign that they're being successful. They're just waiting for the protest to turn violent so they can let loose the hounds of hell. Bannon has masterminded Donald Trump's effort to neutralize the media by declaring the press as unreliable, untrustworthy, and tools of the out-of-touch elites. He's used Hitler's technique of the big lie very skillfully, saying a false thing over and over and over again until people begin to accept it as true. He's also the architect of declaring inconvenient truths to be fake facts. Things you don't want to deal with, oh, that's not really true. That's a fake fact. That's fake news, and we're going to give you some alternative facts. You know, you used to get your behind beat for telling your mama an alternative fact. That's a lie. It's an alternative fact. You can't have an alternative fact. A fact is a fact. But he lended a kind of legitimacy to this playing with the meaning of things for 2 reasons. One, to get his program across, and the other, to get an almost illiterate public to the point that they don't know what to believe. You say something about Donald Trump dealing with Russia, and they say, oh, y'all just against him. Well, if they said something about Obama dealing with Russia, there'd be a revolution. Obama be hanging from the street light out in front of the White House. Bannon is part of the alt-right movement that has been laying the groundwork for this movement for years. It's nothing new. They've been putting people in place and recruiting people for this opportunity, just waiting to find the right president to set their plan into motion. It's a strategy they adopted a long time ago, getting people into the State Department, getting people on congressional staffs, getting people in the right places. And they call these people ghost skins. Ghost skins. You are not supposed to know who they are. They're not supposed to show their hand. They're supposed to be kind of like sleepers who are part of the alt-right, white supremacist movement, but they have placed themselves in strategic areas within the government waiting on the right president. You ain't got to believe me. So how you know that? You ain't got to believe me. I'll read. The FBI says white supremacists and other domestic extremists maintain an active presence in U.S. police departments and other law enforcement agencies. No centralized recruitment process or set of national standards exists for the 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States, many of which have deep historical connections to racist ideologies. As a result, state and local police, as well as sheriff departments, present ample opportunities for white supremacists and other right-wing extremists looking to expand their power. For some reason, we have stepped away from the threat of domestic terrorism and right-wing extremism. The only way we can reconcile this kind of behavior is if we accept the possibility that the ideology that permeates white nationalists and white supremacists is something that many in our federal and law enforcement communities understand and many may be in sympathy with. This election for white supremacists was a signal that we're on the right track. I have never seen anything like it among white supremacists, where they express this feeling of triumph and jubilee. They are just elated about the idea that they feel like they have somebody in the White House who gets it. That's from an FBI investigation of white supremacist groups that was initiated because this fact did not go unnoticed and people urged them to look into it. Their plan is a white nationalist plan. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. And I don't know if you're getting scared or not, and I really don't care, because I'm scared already. We need to be scared, but we need to understand what we're dealing with. Their plan is a white nationalist plan to maintain white supremacy. Steve Bannon said on Breitbart News before he went dark, before the election attracted so much attention that he had to stop talking on it, he said, if we can have our way for the next 4 years, we will control the country for the next 50 years. Their plan is dressed up as bringing about the resurrection of the forgotten man. You heard Trump say that about the ode to the forgotten man? The ranchers, the steel workers, the auto workers, the coal miners who have been left behind by the country were wiped out in the economic downturn. Now, this forgotten man has even had the value of their whiteness threatened. And so they're losing their minds. These are angry people. They want somebody held accountable for what happened to them. These are angry people. Bannon feeds them every day red meat through Donald Trump, the disruptor in chief. The same things you think is crazy are the same things they're saying, get them! Go on, do your thing. They are elated because the elites and their pet minorities are now being put properly in their place. He disrupts and then he renegotiates everything. In this plan, this white nationalist plan, the Mexicans are to Trump what the Indians were to Andrew Jackson. They got to go. They got to go. Or enough of them got to go so that it's new frontiers. And by ending immigration, building a wall, and enacting deportation of significant number of Hispanics, they plan to destroy the growing demographic threat to white domination of America. By suppressing the vote of all minority citizens, they plan to ensure political control of the country by making black people basically politically insignificant on a national scale. By proposing a massive infrastructure development program, they hope to be able to provide $35 an hour jobs to every white American worker who has been displaced by automation and the loss of manufacturing jobs. You said, well, the Congress is never going to pay for all them tunnels and high-speed railroads and all that stuff. They don't have to. They've already collected enough money from corporations, put it together to do everything they want to. They then collected $150 billion to engage in public-private enterprises, public-private partnerships. They've already put up the money for these infrastructure projects. The only problem is when they do these public-private partnerships, the things they build, they will own, not the government, not the people. In exchange for coming up with this money, the roads, the bridges, the high-speed railroads, the airports, the schools, the tunnels, the pipelines and utilities that they plan to build will belong to somebody private. You know, the Vanderbilt family of New York built the New York subway system. They owned it. So that meant every time you got on the subway, you were paying the Vanderbilt family directly. This went on for years and years and years until finally they said, we got to do something about this because this is ridiculous. We got millions of people riding the thing every day, and they're paying directly into the railroad system been paid for a long time ago. And now they're just paying, making your family richer every day. This is the same kind of thing. The reason that the corporations are willing to pay for the bridges, the roads, the tunnels, the high-speed railroads is that they're going to own them. And we are going to pay every time. They said, we didn't use taxpayer money. But now, every time we get on them, every time you use the road, every time you ride down the street, there's a toll booth. They told us in Houston, back in the 80s when they started building toll booths, we'll pay tolls until the roads are paid for. And here it is 30 years later and we ain't started paying yet. This is what you get from a public-private partnership. It's a way to funnel public money into private hands. They plan to transfer power from the federal government back to the states to ensure that the white majority can maintain control and destroy the federal government's ability to interfere in what they're doing. If you transfer the power back to Texas, we're insignificant. We don't really count politically. There are not enough of us to make a difference. By constantly talking about law and order and the crime, carnage in the inner cities. You know, he keeps repeating that. Carnage in the inner, walk outside, you get shot. He keeps repeating that crime, carnage in the inner city. You know, inner city is a term that people have stopped using a long, long time ago. He's revived the term inner city because most inner cities are not black anymore. But what he's saying is something different. He's making a case. He's creating a narrative. He's creating a narrative where they're setting the stage for the removal of poor black people from the central city, paving the way for redevelopment of real estate expensive real estate to create enclaves for the rich people to live, work, and play in the urban core. You go to New York City, there ain't no black people in the inner city. Black people can't live in Harlem anymore. Black people can't live in Brooklyn anymore because both of those are an extension of Manhattan. In any city, black people have been run out of Washington, D.C. Black people being run out of the inner loop in Houston. Well, that's all in the most value. The reason they put the city on the land there in the inner city because it was the best land. That's why they put the city there originally. it also has infrastructure in it already. And the further you move out, you ain't got all that stuff in the ground that you need to have a decent life. And so when it floods, you got water in the house with you. The best land with the greatest amount of infrastructure and support is in the city. So those homes are, even if it's a shack, even if it's a lot, it's more valuable because of where it is situated. In every city that we got churches right now, we moved in as white folks are moving out. Detroit, Atlanta, and Houston. Over time, that land has become very valuable. And now in Detroit, Atlanta, and Houston, they're trying to revoke our tax exemption on the property that we own so that we have to pay taxes, and they believe they will price us out of owning the land. I deal with this all week long, every week, in 3 cities. The training center, the culture center, the aquatic center, all want to put back on the tax rolls now that property in Detroit is worth something again. In Houston, property along the train line, now that it's worth something again, they want to put it back on the tax roll. So there'll be revenue generating as opposed to having a church sitting there paying nothing. It's all a part of a redevelopment plan of the inner cities. That's why you got white people with shorts and flip-flops walking through Third Ward. And by proposing an American First policy, rejecting the rules-based interaction of nations, withdrawing from all international agreements, including the United Nations, they plan to be free of accountability. In other words, you do in your country what you want to do, and we'll do in our country what we want to do. And there are no international rules we all got to follow. We can handle our business our way. Free to pursue their own interests without regard to others. Free to use their overwhelming superior military power to bully other nations. Free to treat their minority citizens any way they want to without outside interference. I'm talking about you now. This is about us. The only reason we got all these civil rights and stuff is because there was a battle between the Soviets and the United States, and the United States was looking bad because they was treating their black citizens wrong, and Martin Luther King made a big thing of it. Civil rights struggle made a big thing of it on TV and everything, made the United States look bad, and they said, look here, we're going to have to extend some rights to these people. You take that international pressure away, you have to remember, we 13% of the population. We ain't big enough to do nothing independently. They hope to be able to deliver the new American dream to the forgotten man, the forgotten white man, in the form of a higher standard of living. And by making abortion illegal, they plan to increase the white population back to an overwhelming majority, preserving America as a white Christian nation it's always intended to be since its founding. Ultimately, the chief beneficiaries of all this will be the corporations and the billionaire class. The white masses will get a secure middle-class existence forever. And black people, Hispanics, and Muslims will get the shaft. Steve Bannon's plan is to make Donald Trump the Andrew Jackson of the modern world, the Peckerwood Messiah of the 21st century. Now, I didn't mean to depress y'all. I don't even like the role the Lord has cast me into, because I think I'm going to spend my remaining years with a message of trying to warn people who don't want to be warned. That is the plan. That's the plan. But it's just a plan. Before you tuck your head and go home and cry and climb in the bed, it's just a plan. They got a plan. It's not reality yet. It's not even inevitable. It's a plan. What's your plan? What's the plan? Bannon has a plan to bring the existing system down and to establish a new political and economic order. Everybody in the world is forced to adjust to a new reality. And that includes us. We are forced to deal with a new reality. Doing nothing while hoping the problem goes away is not an option. Coming this far and dying with the baton in hand is not an option. We have to get serious about organization and strategy and program and nation building and Pan-Africanism. America's in the midst of a civil war. It's not a shooting war. It's a philosophical war. It's a cultural war. It is a war over the very definition of what it means to be American. For many people, Americanness and whiteness are synonymous. They believe you can't be a real American without being white. That is white nationalism. That's the definition of it. They are driven by racism, xenophobia, and insecurity. They fear competing on a level playing field. They believe that affirmative action for white people is their birthright. On the other side, people believe that America is not a race or a religion, but people join together around a common devotion to the idea of freedom, equality, democracy, and justice. They believe in an eternal struggle to make of the country a more perfect union. They believe that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. They believe that when the best people are allowed to realize their potential, everybody wins. The majority of the country still believes in this kind of America, as evidenced by Hillary Clinton's winning the popular vote and the astonishing number of people who protested the day after the inauguration. However, victory is not won by the rightness of our cause, but by the intensity of our effort, the consistency of our discipline, and the effectiveness of our organization. You don't win because you're right. You don't win because you got a better idea. You win because you have organization, and you have discipline, and you have commitment, and you work together effectively. The white nationalist view is now in the White House, and now they are in control of the levels of state power, which makes our job more difficult. They have a plan. I just told you their plan. White nationalism and white supremacy have been prevailing values of the United States since the beginning, and they're not simply going to change because we want it to. We have to fight intelligently to deconstruct whiteness and lift up justice. The vast majority of white nationalists are older people who are not comfortable in a world where the future doesn't look like the past. We have to fight to shape the future by winning the battle of hearts and minds so that more people have an inclusive view of an America than a white nationalist view. This is not a battle we can win by ourselves. We have to win other people to our side. There are more people in the country that believes in our side. We have to be willing to join with anybody seeking to promote an anti-white nationalist America. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. A lot of white Americans are not white nationalists, but they come out good either way. Either way. If it's an inclusive America, that's good. That's what they wanted. If it's a white nationalist America, they white so they benefit anyway. But we cannot win this struggle without winning them to our side and engaging them in a conscious deconstruction of whiteness from within, which means that white people have to do their own work internally, not us doing it, not them telling them what to do. They're going to have to deconstruct whiteness because they understand it's not good for the stability of the country. In the meantime, we have to get serious about building our own independent institutions. We have to get serious about the Blexit, the black economic exit, using the $1.8 trillion that black people spend each year, when we have to do it in a more programmatic way. We have to keep hollering about it. We're fussing about it, talking about it, so that people come to understand we're going to have to change the way we spend money. We're going to have to change. We got to think about it differently. It don't take all your money. We just got to learn how to spend some of it in our own community, with our own people. And then we got to demand that they employ our children and our people, or we're going to cut them off. We have enough money to make us the 8th largest economy in the world. Our problem is not money, it's our mentality. We have to overcome this belief that white people have a divine right to our money. We have to break the generations-old cycle of total dependency, total consumerism, and total exploitation. We have to overcome the sick belief that white milk is whiter and white ice is colder, and what you buy from white folks is inherently better than what you buy from black folks. Hell, we ought to be willing to pay a black tax and say, I'm willing to get less from a black person than I am to give more to a black person than to pay less to a white person, because I can demand accountability. We got to become more sophisticated with how we spend our money. In other words, we got to weaponize our money. Now, you ain't got to go out and protest and get beat up by the police or nothing to do that. All you got to do is say, where are places where I can spend my money in a way that'll make a difference for my people? In Seattle, people working together got together and withdrew $3.5 billion out of Wells Fargo. $3.5 billion. And they did it because Wells Fargo was financing the Keystone Pipeline. And they said, if you're going to finance that pipeline, we're taking our money out of your bank. And they said, when they move to another institution to find financing, we're going to take our money out of there too. And wherever people go where they're trying to finance things we don't believe in or are to our detriment, we're going to take all of our money out of the bank. We have to think differently. We got to use our creative intelligence. You know, when the global economy was created, they felt that the United States had a significant advantage because all the major corporations, the biggest corporations, largest number, are more in America. So they figured we can rape the countryside, the whole world. But the Chinese used their creative intelligence. They said, wait a minute, we don't have no big corporations, but we got some money now. And the Chinese created a sovereign fund. The government created a sovereign fund. And the sovereign fund put in a bid for Maytag. They said, wait a minute, your country can't buy Maytag. You got to get some independent investors to get together. Why? This is global capitalism. Free, you can't create no rules now. They said, this is unfair. You're using your country to buy stuff. You got to use your creative intelligence. We have to learn to use ours. They just bought last week, General Electric, the Chinese government bought General Electric's appliance division. And now they've become the largest appliance producer in the world. And it wasn't any individual Chinese that did it. It was the collective Chinese sovereign fund that bought it overnight. Let me tell you something. We can create a community trust fund that is communally held, totally transparent, and where money can only go in, it can never come out. So you ain't got to worry about somebody taking money out of the fund, because the law would say it cannot come out. And that fund can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and with our $1.8 trillion a year, we can buy General Motors. We can buy banks. We can become a real competitor on a global scale. If white folks don't want to sell our stuff, we'll sell it anywhere in the world. We got to use our creative intelligence. We can't keep marching and protesting and using strategies from the 40s and the 50s in the modern world. When you protest, that's good. You're keeping up some attention. But it's an elaborate form of begging. It's a highly visible, elaborate form of begging where the decision is still in the hands of somebody else. You put together a trust fund, a community trust fund, where every business, every church, every person in the black community got to put 10% in that fund every year, or we're going to cut you off. If you an actor, entertainer, and you ain't participating, we ain't watching your movie, we ain't buying your CDs, we through with you. till you pay your dues. If you talk crazy and say, I'm going up to Trump Tower to have a meeting, we cut you off. We kill your ratings. We have power. It's not that we don't have resources. It's our mentality. So we hear about somebody else's plan and we get all upset. We can have a plan. We can have a plan to control our own destiny. There's so much we can do. We're richer than Saudi Arabia. We're richer than Canada. We're richer than Russia. We're richer than Italy. And we're sitting around with nothing in our community. That's not a problem of resources, that's a problem of mentality. We can pool our resources, create our own black sovereign fund, and we can buy corporations overnight. They'll wonder what hit them. The CEO will wake up one morning working for some investors, and they'll wake up the next morning working for some others. We can hostily take over anything with our money. We got enough money to hostily take over Apple, Google, overnight. All it would take is some coordinated activity. Just buy it before anybody knows what happens. I wish we could go back to the economic downturn when General Motors stock was 50 cents. I wish we could buy a couple $1 million worth of General Motors stock at 50 cents, because now it's $37. That's more than 60, 70 times more per share. So $1 million would be $70 million. No, I got that wrong. It's higher than that. What I'm trying to say is we have possibilities, but it's the way we think. And our churches don't help, because we've given them $500 billion in the last 30 years, and they ain't gave us nothing but Jesus and prosperity gospel. And it's our fault because we cooperate with it. We do not demand that our stuff be used for us. We do not demand it. People get the leadership they deserve. If you don't demand it, you don't get it. People get the leadership they deserve. America deserves Donald Trump. We got work to do. There's a whole lot we can do. We can have a black sovereign fund, and we can buy targeted corporations. We can build our own community infrastructure. We ain't got to ask anybody for anything. We can build our own schools. We can police ourselves. We can teach ourselves. We can create the rules in our own community no matter what they're doing in the outside world. And we can employ our own people so they ain't got to go out shopping, getting rejected time after time, showing up with their hat in their hand. We have to take seriously our own best self movement. We cannot give Donald Trump justification for invading the black community by living down to his repeated claim that we're all living in carnage and violence and criminality and poverty. If you voluntarily choose ignorance over knowledge, you're betraying your own people. If you choose individualism over unity and personal interests over common cause, you're betraying your own people. If you choose criminality that reflects on all of us and gives our enemies a sword to slay us, you're betraying your own people. If you choose laziness and chilling over hard work and discipline, if you choose mediocrity over excellence, you are betraying your own people. We got work to do. We have to protect our health. We have to get in shape. We have to lose some weight. We got to save our money. We got to step our game up. We got to pray our mind right, because we got work to do. They got a plan. We got to have a plan. It's really a great time to be alive. It may not seem like it right now, but we're witnessing the fulfillment of all of our hopes and dreams and prayers. We're witnessing the desperate last-ditch effort to preserve the idolatry of white supremacy. They have fought desperately to get Donald Trump elected because they were terrified that they were losing the country. They won the presidency, but they still losing the country. An inexorable process of demographic transformation is underway. Old white people are dying every day and are being replaced by younger people of color who are melanating America. Every day America gets younger, darker, and more diverse, and they can't stop it. White nationalists sounded the alarm with their warning of white genocide. They scared white people into electing a Peckerwood Messiah. But if we do our part, we cannot possibly be stopped. God is on our side. Truth is on our side. Justice is on our side. The very forces of the universe are on our side. This is not a time for sitting back and watching a parade go by. We can't afford to waste this opportunity to bury the scourge of white supremacy forever. We have to see the big picture. We have to have a cosmic worldview. There are times when people must be metamorphosized into something new to survive. And this is one of those times. We cannot be what we have been. We cannot afford to be petty and vindictive with each other. We cannot afford to be competitive and small-minded. We cannot afford to retreat into our private lives. And if you're one of those people that's just waiting to die, you need to go ahead and get on out the way. Hurry up. But if you plan on being around and living a full life, we have to get serious, doing everything every day that we can to move the dial in the direction we want to go. We all have a role to play. There's something all of us can do. We have to ask ourselves every day, what can I do right now that will move us toward ending white supremacy in the world? What can I do right now? And when you answer that question, get up and do it. In the Bible, Galatians 6:9 says, let us not lose our zeal in doing good, for in due season we will reap a reward if we do not give up. If we do not give up. If we do not give up. See, we need some black honey badgers. We need some black honey badgers who don't care, who ain't scared, who never stop, who keep going, to stay on the mission, fall asleep, get back up. You thought you killed them. They just got to get up and go to doing the same thing. We need some black honey badgers, people who are relentless, who will never be turned around, who will never get discouraged, demoralized, deterred, or defeated. People who never give up, who will never say die, who won't ever stop fighting for justice and dignity, for self-determination. For people like, we need some black honey badgers, like Marcus Garvey, who would never say die, who would never give up, who fought and fought and fought, and when you thought he was dead and through, there he was again, fighting on. We need some black honey badgers. We got complacent black people. Little things stop us. Small things stop us. Little pains stop us. An aching back will stop us. A difficult day will stop us. We need people that can fight through all of that and see the big picture and understand what is at stake in the time that we have on this earth. We need people who won't ever stop until black people are restored to our original place of power and dignity in the world. Amen.
Family, if what you heard in the message moved or inspired you to do something, then don't hesitate to reach out to us and discover how you can become an agent for change and an instrument of social, political, economic, and environmental justice together with us as a follower or subscriber of our Best Self movement. So don't delay. Just go to our web link, www.linktr.ee/SOBM. That's linktree/SOBM. And get involved in our Pan-African global struggle for dignity, self-determination, power, and freedom today. And please, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment to help us grow our virtual Pan-African village with our people everywhere. Ashe and Amen.